Welcome back to the Integration Hub, where we sit down with innovators who are shaping the connected future of our supply chains. And today we're going to get into platforms specifically with a visionary leader in the logistics tech space. His name is Jason Traff. He's the co founder and president of Shipwell. Now, Shipwell's journey started from a very familiar frustration we all have, the overall fragmentation and manual aspect that comes with global shipping and its data as well. Now, Jason and his team set out to build what they call the intelligent nervous system for supply chains. And I'll let him get into that here in the episode in a second. But what I think is really important for our audience in the forward aspect, moving forward TMS and platforms in particular in supply chain, is a focus on AI and automation and what we can do with that technology to really be more prescriptive and how we are fixing our supply chains, how proactive we can actually be. But today we really dive into a key point in the conversation, which is overall connectivity. Because guess what? No matter how advanced your platform is, if your data isn't flowing between systems, if your integrations are brittle or slow, and if onboarding a new partner takes weeks instead of hours like we do here at Orderful, well, guess what? Your customer experience is going to just break down completely. And that's exactly where modern EI comes into this conversation. Now, for a lot of SaaS platform founders or technology leaders as well, EDI often feels like the legacy system that you have to support, but you just don't want to build it or maintain it. We get it. That's not why you came to this space. It's why Shipwell didn't come into supply chain. It wasn't for EDI. It takes a deep expertise in X12, precision on engineering, the bandwidth for engineering as well. Of course, it'll slow your go live timelines if you're not focused on your core product at hand. So that's why we've partnered with incredible SaaS platforms like Shipwell to help remove that friction completely. And with a single connection, a platform can easily enable EDI for every customer without having to build or map each connection from scratch, even if you're the one building out that platform. So, of course, in fact, we've seen a lot of our platforms here at Orderful experience about 25x faster go live times, an average about 62% reduction in onboarding time, which all adds up, especially for those leaders out there, again, who are really trying to build something new and effective within the supply chain space. So if you're a SaaS leader looking to scale your platform faster, free up your engineering team, or embed EDI directly in your product, well, this episode is for you to see how that's allowed Shipwell to grow and reach its goals as a SaaS platform. So let's dive into that conversation with Jason here as we focus on building a connective, intelligent, and truly human-centered supply chain. Check this out now. And everyone, I want to introduce you to one of my favorite co-founders in this industry as well, Jason Traff, co-founder and president of Shipwell. Jason, thank you so much for joining us. I'd love if you could give us a little bit of a backstory on Shipwell and why it was important for you to found this company, especially for the problems that you want to solve in supply chain.
Hey, Grace, it's great to see you again. Starting Shipwell. So I guess the inspiration came from a place of frustration, really. For me, I had an oil painting business. We shipped paintings all over the world. And to be honest, shipping was the worst problem we had. And then I reconnected with my co-founder, Greg, who's our CEO, who had just left McKinsey, and he was doing Fortune 100 supply chain consulting. And we compared our notes, and what we could see was all of these massive, sophisticated supply chains operating with incredible friction. And it felt like an industry where everyone tries so hard, but it's still run by fax machines and spreadsheets. And so I remember the first aha moment we had was we were trying to track a critical shipment, and everyone has these stories, but it took days on days, and it took dozens of phone calls, and eventually it was a wild experience. And so the core problem we started Shipwell to solve was the fragmentation of information. We wanted to give shippers, carriers, and 3PLs one single pane of glass. Like an intelligent nervous system that connects the physical movement of goods with the digital flow of data. And that was the original mission behind Shipwell.
Well, I want to dive into that journey, and especially looking at the early days of Shipwell, because you guys have a really interesting, I guess, journey in that discovery as well. In those early days, was there a moment where you started to realize, okay, the way we're building this thing out is really going to change the way that logistics providers, brokers, etc., attack this industry?
Hmm. Yeah, that we're not just the same scrappy team running on
Yeah.
caffeine and dreams anymore. Even though I'd still like to think we're very much a startup still at heart, even though we, power some of the most recognizable and fastest growing brands in the world now. And so I guess for Shipwell, just as a TMS, as a transportation management system, usually for each major feature, there's been at least one aha moment that was like an acute customer pain point, just because of the nature of how supply chains are. But I think probably the first one was back in 2019 when we released our Compass dashboard. This is a predictive ETA model. We've always had real-time visibility through carrier tracking, but with Compass, we combined it with like real-time weather, real-time traffic, so we could create like a dashboard to help customers manage their supply chains more proactively. And one of our early customers, a large food and beverage company, told us that because they could see these alerts ahead of time, they were better able to manage by exception. And this helped them, cut their number of check calls in half and save tens of thousands in detention. But specifically for them, it helped them avoid hundreds of thousands of dollars by avoiding these expedited emergency purchases that stem when a truck just doesn't show up when it's supposed to. And then all of a sudden, they're out in New Jersey, 10 o'clock at night, trying to buy 20,000 pounds of lobster, which, as you can imagine, gets expensive
Awful.
quickly.
Yeah. I just actually got back from a New York City trip, and I remember saying to myself, how do trucks get in and out of this area? It's maddening. And I remember trying to cover loads in and out of there, just completely and to talk about the visibility aspect, right? Like you have no visibility of what capacity is in there. So having that tool must have been incredible, especially you talk about the timeline, right? For that company to really look at that feature right before COVID and capacity issues really started to hit them. Talk about proactiveness, right? That's a perfect example of that working out for them as well. And as you start to see your growth over the last couple of years, there's been this, of course, I think over the last 5 years, that big focus on our platforms. And I think that proactiveness, right? From your perspective, where do you think Shipwell is better at attacking the problems in supply chain compared to other innovators out there?
Hmm. I think that's a really interesting question. There's this thought of supply chain software has existed for decades. I think both of our companies sort of embody that. And I think you're right that the space is buzzing, right? There's a level of focus on it that there's never really been before. For Shipwell, while we hold a number of accolades, we are generally one of the newer companies in sort of our TMS space. And I think that some of the things we were able to do differently was one, just when we started, we were able to use a cloud native technology, full REST APIs without even getting into the machine learning and AI stuff we did. But I think we had the benefit of being able to design solutions, not just for one party. So many TMSs out there were built for shippers or brokers or carriers. And Shipwell was built from the ground up to be the network itself. We connect and not just integrate everyone. Our technology doesn't just manage data. We will use AI to orchestrate decisions. We'll use machine learning to help with algorithmics. We're not just digitizing a rate quote. We're automating the entire tender to settlement lifecycle, so that smarter decisions can be made. And so I think one of the real differences, and part of this is just when we were able to start the company, but we've been able to be holistic and network centric and build a very, I think, native approach that sets our technology apart.
It's incredible. And you touched on this too, the AI of it all, right? We can't avoid that conversation these days in the tech space. How has AI been a part of Shipwell's journey in particular, and maybe even more so on the automation side of things? Where do you see practical applications being impacted today in logistics from it?
Yeah, it's we rarely go a day without either us or me talking about AI. And so you're right. It's certainly very topical. For Shipwell, this is an area we've been close to for a while. So we've had generative AI in the platform for about 2 years now. We would brag that over a quarter of Shipwell's customers are using AI in their production environments now, to real and practical effect. And so I think the areas we've seen most customers find success is taking a very narrow pain point that's usually low impact. It's something that takes a lot of energy and a lot of time from their team, but is something that's very straightforward to automate. So this could be automating order imports from emails, responding to tracking, even proactively doing tracking and tracing, shipment quotes based on emails and documents, classifying carrier documents. This is a big one. And then even scheduling appointments. I think these are all areas where we've seen AI really provide a better ROI over sort of the industry standard tools they're used to using.
It's how we actually at Orderful look at our AI journey as well. You might not see it in every aspect of the technology, but one of the biggest areas we use it is in those kind of mundane, nuanced areas of EDI, and that's the communication to build, right? The guidelines to make sure that this data moves smoothly between systems, and we all know that there's a huge human element to that, right? The customer service between different providers, and we've never shied away from that being a problem in the EDI space. So we've always focused on how can we use automation, how can we use AI to make that process shorter, leading to a faster onboarding experience as well. So I like that your team is creative and focuses on those I don't want to say mundane, but those tasks that do take a lot of time off of your team's plate for areas that they can be more innovative, right? And I think everyone has seen that in Shipwell's technology, the outcome of that AI journey as well. For you, looking ahead, 2 to 3 years down the line, what technology bets are you making that you think will fundamentally shift, whether it's Shipwell or just supply chain operations in general?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a few really exciting things that are happening. I think the trend that we are investing deeply in and very excited about is this pivot from visibility to prescriptive action. So when we started Shipwell, which to be honest wasn't even that long ago, visibility was really the big buzzword, knowing where your stuff is. And I think that's table stakes now. One of the reasons that we built visibility native into Shipwell was so that we could use that data to automatically fix the problems before they impact, our customers and their businesses. And so we've always thought of it as moving from like a diagnostic tool to a self-healing supply chain. And so in our view, this is the norm. Customers should be able to manage their supply chains by exception and automate everything around it. And that's sort of what we're starting to see now as that visibility is becoming mainstream. The other one that we're really excited about is this convergence of like execution and financial systems. So historically, TMS systems have focused on the truck and finance systems have focused on the payment. Now that we're seeing automation in everything, especially in documents, BOLs, proof of deliveries, invoices, we're seeing a lot of automation from initial quote all the way to final carrier payment and audit in one flow. And we've seen a lot of customer impact in that as well.
Cash flow is so big in this industry, and for every participant as well. I have a little bit more of the brokerage operations background in me. That right there, I always tell people, right, like brokerage is pretty much your in a way a floating bank, and it's important, right, to make sure that cash flow stays healthy so that you can continue to stay competitive right, with your carriers. And then on the carrier side, I mean, goodness, that's probably the most cash flow focused part of the industry in terms of the carriers that we need to stay afloat, have the ability to fill up their tanks and know when that payment is going to arrive on time with such low margins that they have. The financial pieces I think is more important than ever. And it's interesting because I see people sometimes start their entrepreneurial journey in this space and don't consider that and quickly realize, you could have millions of dollars of revenue, but if you're not managing and I think like what you touched on, the visibility of the payment cycle, right? If that's not there, if that journey isn't exposing kind of your weak points, then you're really going to have some issues growing and scaling down the line. So I'm happy that you're seeing that change or anticipating that change because I think that's where most companies tend to fail in this industry is losing track of what money is coming in and out. And speaking of in and out, Jason, let's get into the EDI journey of it all, right? I'd love if you could give us a little bit of background on Shipwell looking into its EDI services and its journey with Orderful as well.
Yeah, EDI. Oh, what a fun topic, right?
Right.
Um, so for Shipwell, we've always seen ourselves as a multi-sided platform that was built and architected to for future and scale. And so we've always said that we want to innovate at the API layer and simplify at the UI layer. But with EDI, it's just kind of this essential yet often painful bedrock of logistics, communication. And so the challenges that we had were twofold. One, integrating new partners, especially legacy systems, felt like a journey back in time. We could spend weeks writing complex, brittle integrations that would break with updates, and it was a drag. It was a drag on engineering resources, and not an area that we felt we were truly innovating in. And externally for our customers, it was a hurdle to digitization. So, they couldn't move at the speed of the markets because they were tied to these slow, expensive manual EDI setups. And so, what we wanted was a future-proof solution that allowed us to onboard, any partner in hours, not weeks.
Yeah, and that's our focus has been that, and I'm happy that you guys have looked at EDI as a advantage point, right? Being able, what's incredible is I think you've built all this great technology, but at the what you just touched on, understanding, right, if that data isn't flowing in there properly, if there's, any issues with errors, etc., I mean, chargebacks, things of that nature, then it kind of falls apart. And that's why when people ask me why I came into the CDI space, I think that's what makes it fun for me. Yeah, it's not the sexiest thing out there, right? It's not the most fun topic to talk about because I think it has so many headaches. But as it sounds like your team has found out too, it's that piping that makes this all work. And it's also not going away. I think people have always brought up the EDI API argument, and EDI from especially the large players in this space and large retailers, et cetera, that use it. I don't think we're going to convince them to walk away from it today or tomorrow as well. So I'm happy that you've had that positive experience. And if there's supply chain leaders today listening to this, Jason, why do you think modernizing that piece of your tech stack is important for the broader journey of technology?
Yeah, I think EDI is here for a while, so
Yeah.
I think that's timely. I've always liked this analogy that you can't build a castle on sand. And similarly, when you look at something as foundational as EDI, you can't build a true digital supply chain built on this analog plumbing. And so for us, modernizing EDI wasn't just about checking a box. It was about eliminating a large barrier to speed and data quality and automation. And so if you have to wait weeks to months to onboard a new partner, if your data is riddled with errors from sort of manual entry, broken mappings, that entire digital transformation is handicapped. And so, modern EDI, like what Orderful provides, kind of gets closer to this idea of like a plug and play ecosystem. So it can be a critical infrastructure piece, that allows you to scale your network and leverage all those exciting and automation technologies that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, it's fun being a part of a technology that I think itself is going through its own revolution, right? And being the leader in that space, just like you are, and the space that Shipwell is in as well. To wrap this up, Jason, if you had to give one piece of advice to founders or leaders out there trying to build tech for this industry, what would that be from what you've learned at Shipwell and what you see from the future of freight tech as well?
Yeah. My advice is actually really similar to something that you were saying earlier when you were talking about the pain points of brokers and carriers. And my advice is to solve for the human. This industry is complex and technical and massive, but at the end of the day, it's run by millions of very passionate, very hardworking people. The drivers, the dispatchers, the warehouse managers, the logistics analysts. It's a very long list. And you can't just build technology that adds another screen or another step. You have to build technology that respects their time, that makes their jobs easier, that leverages their expertise. And ultimately, we feel that the technology that wins isn't just the most complex, it's the one that is so intuitive and helpful that people on the front lines can't imagine doing their jobs without it. So we would often say like simplification is the ultimate sophistication.
I love that. Good metaphors today, Jason. I'll say I love the castle on the sand one too. I'm gonna steal that. We'll clip that one. We'll definitely get that in there. Jason, for everyone watching today, if they're looking to learn more about Shipwell or interested in even seeing a demo, what's the best way for them to reach out to your company and learn more?
Yeah. Please feel free to visit us at shipwell.com.
Love it. Jason, thank you so much for being a wonderful partner with us here at Orderful. And thank you so much for joining me for a fun conversation on tech in the space.
Thanks, Grace.
Thank you again to Jason for that wonderful conversation. Of course, go check out Shipwell at shipwell.com. And also, go to orderful.com, check us out on LinkedIn, follow us because we've got some really fun news coming around the corner. You thought we're just going to end the year without an announcement? Not going to happen. Before the year's done, over in December, we're going to have some really fun product announcements for everyone. So in order to stay tuned to that and get that information as soon as it comes out, go to our LinkedIn and social pages. Make sure that you follow us as well. Head to orderful.com, and you can, of course, chat with one of our representatives to hear more about what's coming around the corner. But I'm really excited. We'll have a new episode here shortly in December to discuss that new product too. Until then, our next episode, we'll get into some more supply chain work as we talk with LVK and Maggie over there. It's going to be a really exciting conversation, especially as two women in logistics who've worked really hard to build our careers and build some really great technology for this space as well. So thank you all for listening. Make sure you like and subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast as well. And be sure to stay connected.
Still relying on legacy EDI? Manual work, costly van providers, and slow onboarding are holding you back. Orderful changes everything. Onboard trading partners 10 times faster, automate every transaction, solve production issues in seconds, and stay compliant across all your trading partners. Connect once, trade with the world. Go live in under 9 days with pre-built connections and real-time validation. With built-in support for leading ERPs and systems of record, Orderful fits seamlessly into your existing tech stack. Orderful is #1 in time to value for EDI. Orderful supports all core EDI documents across your supply chain, from order to cash, procure to pay, and logistics to warehousing, and with no hidden fees, ever. Whether you're upgrading your ERP, clearing a trading partner backlog, or done with the cost and complexity of legacy EDI, Orderful helps you move faster with zero surprises and complete control. The EDI infrastructure of the future, available today. Built for change, ready for growth.